For half a century, America believed they were witnessing a perfect love story. They rode across television screens beneath endless western skies. He was fearless. She was radiant. Together, they sang of faith, loyalty, and hope. To millions, they were more than entertainers. They were proof that love could endure anything. But behind the applause, behind the camera lights, and behind the carefully protected image, there was another story, one filled with silence, with sacrifice, with loneliness so deep that even the brightest spotlight couldn't reach it. Before her death, in 2001, Dale Evans finally began to share the truth. She once described her marriage not as a fairy tale, but as a cathedral with cracks, beautiful from a distance, but fragile underneath. And those cracks had been there from the very beginning. Long before she became Dale Evans, she was a frightened young girl named Lucille Wood Smith. She was born on October 31st, 1912, in Texas, into a world that offered very few guarantees. Her family struggled financially, and like many families of that era, survival came before comfort. Her father worked long hours, and her mother did what she could to nurture her daughter's mind and spirit. From the very beginning, there were signs that Lucille was different. She loved music, not just listening to it, but feeling it. She sang in church when she was barely old enough to read. Her voice carried a quiet strength that surprised people. It wasn't loud or showy. It was sincere. But talent doesn't protect you from hardship. By the age of 14, Lucille made a decision that would change her life forever. She fell in love, or at least what she believed was love. Within months, she married a young man named Thomas Fox. She was still a child. The marriage collapsed almost immediately. And then came the moment that would shape her forever. At just 15 years old, Lucille became a mother. Instead of celebration, she faced judgment. Instead of support, she faced abandonment. Her husband left. Her future disappeared overnight. She was no longer a girl with dreams. She was a teenage mother in a society that had no sympathy for her situation. She later admitted that the loneliness she felt during those years never fully left her. She was forced to leave her son in the care of her parents while she searched desperately for work. Every day, she carried the unbearable weight of knowing she wasn't there to raise him. And the guilt never faded. Her escape came through something simple, something small. One day, while working as a secretary, she was quietly humming to herself. Her boss overheard her. That moment changed everything. He didn't scold her. He didn't tell her to stop. Instead, he asked her to sing on the company's radio program. That invitation opened a door she didn't even know existed. Soon, she began performing regularly on local radio stations. Her voice reached people she would never meet. People who didn't know her struggles. People who only heard beauty. It was during this time that she became Dale Evans. The name wasn't just a stage identity. It was a shield, a new version of herself. A version untouched by shame, abandonment, and loss. Dale Evans was strong. Dale Evans was confident. Dale Evans had no past. But Lucille Wood Smith still lived quietly inside her. Hollywood arrived in the early 1940s. Studios saw something special in Dale. She had warmth, authenticity, a presence that felt genuine. She wasn't pretending to be kind. She was kind. But Hollywood had rules. And those rules demanded sacrifice. They told her she couldn't be a mother. Not publicly. Her son, the child she loved more than anything, had to be hidden. She was forced to introduce him as her younger brother. She was forced to deny her own motherhood to protect her career. Imagine looking at your own child and pretending he wasn't yours. Imagine carrying that secret for years. She later admitted that this was one of the deepest wounds of her life. But she endured it. Because survival required endurance. Everything changed the day she met Roy Rogers. He was already a star, confident, charismatic, admired by millions. On screen, he represented strength and justice. Off screen, he carried his own burdens. When they first worked together in 1944, their chemistry was undeniable. Audiences saw it immediately. They smiled differently around each other. They moved differently. There was an ease between them that couldn't be faked. But timing is rarely kind. Roy was married when they met. Life, however, had its own plans. After the tragic death of Roy's wife in 1946, he was left heartbroken and alone, raising 3 young children. Dale understood loss. She understood pain. And slowly, comfort turned into friendship. Friendship turned into love. They married on New Year's Eve in 1947. America celebrated. The cowboy had found his queen, and Dale believed she had finally found peace. But peace didn't last. Their life together was filled with extraordinary success. They starred in films. They launched television shows. They became household names. Their program reached millions of homes every week. Families trusted them, admired them, loved them. But success came at a cost. Roy was disciplined, focused, controlled. He believed in order. He believed in authority. And his decisions were final. Dale, by contrast, was deeply emotional. She felt everything intensely. She needed connection. She needed understanding. And slowly, a quiet distance formed between them. She later admitted that she often felt like a guest in her own home. Imagine living beside someone you love and still feeling alone. Imagine smiling for the world while hiding your pain. She did it every day. Then came the tragedies. Their daughter Robin was born in 1950. She was beautiful, fragile, precious. But doctors quickly discovered she had severe health complications. They warned Roy and Dale that raising her would be difficult. They suggested institutional care. Roy refused immediately. He would not abandon his daughter. For 2 years, Robin brought joy into their home. But in 1952, she fell ill and died just days before her 2nd birthday. Dale was shattered. She later wrote that losing Robin changed her forever. But tragedy wasn't finished with them. Years later, their adopted daughter Debbie died in a devastating accident. Then their son Sandy died while serving overseas. Loss after loss, pain after pain. Each time, Dale turned to faith. She turned to writing. She turned to silence. Because sometimes there are no words strong enough to hold grief. Through it all, their public image never faltered. They smiled. They performed. They reassured the world that everything was fine. But privately, the emotional distance remained. Roy expressed love through responsibility, through providing, through protecting. Dale needed something else. She needed emotional closeness. She needed to be seen. She needed to be heard. Sometimes she wasn't. And yet she stayed, not because she was weak, but because she believed in commitment, because she believed in love, because she believed in faith. Roy Rogers died in 1998. For the first time in over 50 years, Dale was truly alone. The silence was overwhelming. The man she had built her entire life beside was gone. And now there was nothing left to protect, nothing left to preserve. She began to reflect openly on her life, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with honesty. She admitted that their marriage had been complicated, beautiful but complicated, strong but imperfect, real. She never denied loving Roy, but she also never denied the loneliness she sometimes felt. Both truths existed together. In her final years, her health declined. She had survived decades of emotional pain, decades of loss, decades of sacrifice. But she had also survived something equally powerful. She had survived herself. She had endured shame, abandonment, grief, and loneliness. And still she chose kindness. Still she chose faith. Still she chose love. She died on February 7th, 2001, at the age of 88. The world remembered her as the Queen of the Cowgirls, a symbol of strength, a symbol of grace. But she was more than that. She was human, a young girl who became a mother too soon, a woman who hid her truth to survive, a wife who loved deeply even when love felt distant, a mother who buried children and kept going, a soul who carried invisible scars with quiet dignity. Today, visitors see their names side by side in stone. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. Two legends, two icons. But beneath those names lie the truths most people never saw. Not just heroes, Not just stars, but two imperfect people who loved, lost, endured, and kept riding forward. And in the end, perhaps that was their greatest story of all. Not perfection, but survival. Not fantasy, but truth. And behind the smiles that millions trusted was a woman who carried more strength than anyone ever knew.